News. Like it or not, love it or hate it, it's a thing that people either like, tolerate, or just try to avoid sometimes at all possible measures. But news, or having a trusted source of news, is really, really important. And today, we're not talking about the effect of sort of national news. We're talking about the effects of not having a trusted source of local news. Because turns out, if you don't have a trusted source of local news, turns out, obviously, you don't end up knowing what's going on in your local communities. Shock, horror, as obviously this was going to be a thing. If you do not have a local newspaper, then you don't know. So, give you an example. So, my local newspaper, again, Barnsley Chronicle. If you want to know what is going on the local council, the Barnsley Chronicle is the only place to get that information. If you do not read the Chronicle, or maybe go to its online news site and read what's going on in the council, because they have a sort of a dedicated sort of council local reporter who follows that stuff, you don't know what's going on in your local council. You don't know what your councillors are up to unless you're following them on social media, and the chances of that are very slim. I'd be very surprised if anyone in the UK watching this video is actually honest enough to say, yeah, I follow my local councillor on social media, because I'll tell you what, even I don't follow my local councillor on social media. But this can have a huge problem. So before we go into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off link to Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So, why are we talking about this? Well, there was a recent study about this, about the effects of not having a local trusted news source. Turns out pretty important, and the effects can be quite damaging as well. So the report itself, if you want to look it up, the report came from the Charitable Journalism Project, and this was one of the extracts taken from it, and I think this sort of sums up the situation. So it says, for the first time in over 2 centuries, towns, villages, and communities in Britain have no reliable and useful news, either because local newsrooms have been shut down or because publishers have shrunk their investment in local reporting as the business model for printed news deteriorates. So that's the unfortunate scenario. Printed news is no longer, very few people, and it's not just local papers here, which obviously is our topic today, but national newspapers circulation is decreasing all the time. In fact, one of the only few things recently that has actually increased in circulation is Private Eye. But I think that just goes to show you the amount of good reporting that they do. But they've got a good marketing department. And of course, they've got a well-known brand name as well. But even sort of the big sort of right-wing papers, the Daily Mail, the most read news source online, its printed effort is nowhere near its online footprint, its online readership. But when you come to the local level, this can have a massive impact. If you haven't got a trusted source of local news, well, where do you get your news from? It turns out, as the report shows, that people get it from social media. And of course, this can be a big problem, because how do you know that source of news where you're getting it about local news can be trusted? Now, some, and I'll say some places, or at least, again, you will use the Barnsley example. We've got We Are Barnsley, and I'm pretty sure other local, local news sites will have set up their own sort of social media hub to sort of pass out sort of their digital offering. for their news, such as, again, We Are Barnsley has for the Chronicle. And unless you haven't got that, which a lot of people seem to don't, then you have a situation of, well, where do I get local news from? Who can I trust for my local news? Because some of what we have seen of these places, especially in like very rural areas, they have all shrunken now to a centralized office where very often these people aren't even going out to do reporting. They can't even go out to sort of take photos. In fact, the report also says that photographers in there have been one of the biggest losses, with some news sources or having to use news for Google Images to get pictures of local schools, buildings, or what have you. So that's certainly one knock-on effect, that people don't have that trusted news. But the other thing, and this is where it's very, very worrying, because, just a couple of months ago, I was really hammering on about the local elections, how important local elections is, and how important it is to turn out to your local elections, because you can have a big impact on your local elections. A turnout of just 100 extra people can swing many a seat in these places. And it's not even 100. We're talking 50 in some places. Some, you're talking 20 or 30, and extra people went out to vote in their local wards. They could change their local candidate. And you won't be surprised, again, according to this report, that the areas who no longer have their trusted source of local newspapers, guess what? The local turnout at the local elections was nothing. It was low. But areas that did have a trusted source of local news, guess what? The turnout was slightly higher. Still not very good, but of course, it's local elections. But at least it does go to show you the importance of having a good local newspaper. So today, if you happen to be passing a local newsagent and you happen to see your local newspaper, pick it up, buy it, have a read through it. Local news, really important. And I think a lot of people do underestimate just how important local news is. And if you are one of the people who has lost their local news paper in the UK, don't worry. I've got a bit of a solution for you. Of course, it's not a complete solution, but hey ho. The Bylines Network. The Bylines Network have done some fantastic jobs in getting sort of local and regional news back on the map. So there is, of course, the big main sort of national one, which is the Bylines Network. And then underneath that, they have the regional ones. So there's the Yorkshire Bylines, the Northeast Bylines, the the Midlands one, all these different regions where they have. So if you have lost your local newspaper, then do look at the Bylines Network and start following that region where you are in, because they have done some really good reporting. Certainly from over the years, we've covered a lot from the Yorkshire Bylines. It's been very, very good reporting they've had there. And yeah, let me know if you still even have your local newspaper. When was the last time you even read your local newspaper? Be very interested to know. So as always, thank you very much for joining. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page. I was just saying newspaper then. There is going to be a link to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And as always, we'll see you all next time.